When you meet someone in their 80s who can still stand tall, walk briskly, and laugh easily, you might wonder, how do they keep that energy at this age? They're still taking morning walks, chatting with strangers as if they were old friends, still recalling stories from their youth like they happened just yesterday. Maybe you see them sitting in the park, sipping a hot coffee and laughing heartily at some jazz tune. Or you see them with a small radio in hand, tapping along to an old song, eyes bright with joy. But then you might meet someone else, maybe their neighbor, maybe your own relative who's also in their 80s. This time, that person sits quietly in a recliner, trembling a little as they stand up. They speak less, their face less radiant. Sometimes their eyes stare into the distance, as if trying to hold onto a memory that's slipping away. Or you might catch them leaning on a cane, taking each careful, deliberate step like every move is a challenge. And in these two images, one person bursting with life, the other like a withering leaf, you find yourself asking, why such a difference? They're the same age. We usually chalk it up to genes. Oh, their family's always been healthy. Must be in their DNA. Or to luck, guess they're just lucky. But the truth is that's only a small part. There's something even more important, and it's in our own hands. After 75, health is no longer just "I'll be fine." It's a turning point where the body can head down one of two paths, a slow but steady decline or a journey of vibrant, dignified aging. And that difference, it doesn't come from big, dramatic things. It starts with the tiniest choices. A decision to walk every day, a meal packed with greens, a conversation with an old friend. Most importantly, it starts with understanding the four main reasons nearly 99% of people over 75 leave this world. These four reasons aren't some mystery: heart disease, cognitive decline, falls, and chronic inflammation. Yes, it sounds dry, but behind every statistic, every diagnosis is a real person with a story left unfinished. Knowing them isn't about being afraid. It's about knowing how to handle them. Not to avoid aging, but to age intentionally, steadily, and meaningfully. That's why I made this video, to walk this journey with you. I'll share real-life stories, simple and practical tips, and lessons I've learned from the strong, older people I've met. But this isn't just about me. This is a conversation, a community. I want to hear from you. Whether you're going through this stage yourself or caring for someone you love, what's on your mind? What worries you? Leave a comment below the video, because your voice could give hope and inspiration to someone else. And if these videos help you, if they make you feel a little less alone, hit that subscribe button. It'll make sure you don't miss the next video, and it'll help build a community where we share and grow stronger. First cause, the heart. The foundation of life. When you're young, the heart works tirelessly like a perfect machine, beating steadily, pumping blood throughout the body, without asking for anything more than steady breathing and a healthy lifestyle. But after age 75, quiet changes begin to creep in, sometimes showing up only as a fleeting moment of fatigue or a heartbeat that no longer feels as sure as it used to. And because it arrives so slowly and quietly, many people don't realize that their bodies are sending them a warning. Frank is a 77-year-old man living in a small town in the Midwest. He spent his life close to the land, tending crops and believing that hard work was the best way to stay healthy. He was always proud of himself, a man of the fields, someone who never seemed to tire. But one morning, Frank noticed something different. Every step up the stairs felt heavier. He needed to take deeper breaths when watering his garden, and more often, he found himself stopping mid-task just to sit and catch his breath. He didn't mention it to anyone, thinking it was just another part of growing older. Until one day, while mowing the lawn, he felt dizzy. The moment passed quickly, but was enough to make him brace himself against the lawn mower. After that, Frank went back into the house, saying nothing. Like so many others, he continued to ignore what he felt, telling himself, "I'm probably just a little tired." The truth was that Frank's heart had begun to speak up. After 75, blood vessels lose their elasticity, cholesterol builds up, and the vessel walls narrow. The heart, like a pump forced to work harder to push blood through ever-narrowing, less flexible pipes, starts to strain. Frank wasn't alone. Many people believe that if there's something wrong with their hearts, they'll feel sharp chest pain. But at this age, heart disease doesn't always show up as a dramatic ache. Sometimes it's just a long-lasting tiredness or a morning when you simply don't want to get out of bed. Frank only really started to worry when, one afternoon while sweeping the yard, he collapsed without any warning. Everything that followed happened quickly. The doctor said he'd had a heart attack. Frank was stunned, unable to believe that his heart, once a source of pride, could be so fragile. But it wasn't his heart's betrayal. It was the result of years of not paying attention. Stories like this are not rare. At this age, the most important thing isn't just avoiding salty meals or taking the occasional walk. What matters more is understanding that the heart needs to be cared for like a lifelong companion. It doesn't always mean intense workouts or a strict diet. Sometimes it's as simple as swapping out an afternoon snack for a bowl of fresh fruit, adding leafy greens to dinner, taking a few minutes each morning to breathe deeply and stretch. Above all, it's about listening to the small signals. Unusual tiredness, dizziness when standing, or a nagging sense of fatigue with no clear reason. These are gentle reminders. Don't be quick to dismiss them or wave them away with a shrug of "that's just old age." They're not shameful. They're how your body tells you it needs more attention. The heart never asks for anything too big. It just wants you not to abandon it, not to treat those whispers as trivial. It still hopes to be by your side, during those afternoons watching the sunset or the moments you lift your grandchild high into the air. A healthy heart isn't a gift from the heavens. It's the result of small, steady, patient habits that each of us can choose. Frank later learned to slow down a bit, visit his doctor more often, and change his meals. He no longer saw those slow, careful steps as a sign of weakness, but as a way to show love for himself. His heart, still beating, still strong enough to let him share the stories of a lifetime of hard work. For everyone past the age of 75, the heart may not be young anymore, but it still deserves full care. Because there are still many stories waiting to be told, many family meals to enjoy. Second cause, cognitive decline when memories fade. There's something that's easy to forget as we grow older. It's not just that our bodies become weaker, but our brains. The center of every memory, every decision, every feeling, quietly change too. Like a grand library, the brain holds onto every story, every face, every time we laughed or cried. But over the years, those shelves begin to wobble. And sometimes, a book we cherish just disappears from the shelf without a trace. Eleanor, 82, used to be the person everyone turned to for advice. She had an extraordinary memory. She remembered every grandchild's birthday, the recipe for apple pie that her grandmother taught her when she was a little girl, even the name of the flower seller at the market. Every time someone asked her a question, she always had a little story to share, as if her mind was a movie theater that never went dark. But one morning, Eleanor dropped the sugar jar on the kitchen floor. When her granddaughter asked, "Grandma, are you okay?" she just laughed. "I'm old now, my hands aren't as steady as they used to be." Another time, she accidentally called one grandchild by the wrong name. Another day, she forgot a pot of soup boiling on the stove. "Mom's just a bit forgetful," her daughter reassured her. Elena herself laughed, thinking maybe that's just what happens when you're old. But those forgetful moments started happening more often. She forgot meetings with old friends, even how to brew her favorite tea just right. Some days, she would stare silently at the mirror as if she didn't recognize herself. What worried her family most wasn't the forgetting. It was the confused look in her eyes, like her old memories were fading, slipping away where she couldn't reach them. Cognitive decline doesn't come like a lightning bolt out of a clear sky. It sneaks in slowly, like a thin mist covering familiar roads. First, it's a few words that are hard to find, then a struggle to do two things at once. Gradually, things that were once so clear turn into a maze. Many people think it's just getting old, misplacing keys, not remembering if you've told that story already. But when these things start to get in the way of daily life, when Elena forgets to take her medication, forgets to eat, or is too afraid to leave the house for fear of getting lost, it's no longer just a small inconvenience. These changes aren't just about the brain. They touch a person's sense of safety, the pride of someone who was once independent, and the peace of the whole family. Elena's daughter once said, "The hardest part is seeing mom not be mom anymore." But Elena herself felt just as heartbroken, because when you can't trust your own memories, you start to feel unsure about who you really are. Even so, there's still light between those clouds. The brain, even as it ages, still craves challenge. Crossword puzzles, reading aloud, or just a lively conversation can bring back connections that were starting to fade. When Elena began spending her mornings doing crossword puzzles with her granddaughter, she felt happy again. Sometimes, all it took was a hot cup of tea and an old story to remind her, "I'm still here." And staying connected with others is just as important. Isolation is like a dark room that makes everything feel even more tangled. A caring word, a hand held tightly, can give someone the confidence to keep going. For Elena, sitting outside on the porch with Lily, the friendly neighbor, brought her back to laughter and simple chit-chat. Not because Lily could bring her memories back, but because that friendship helped her feel a little less alone on those cloudy days. Taking care of the brain isn't just the job of doctors and specialists. It's something everyone can do. Eating healthy fats like salmon and walnuts, adding more fresh greens and fruit to meals. It's making sure to get good sleep, because nighttime is when the brain heals and repairs itself. And it's giving yourself chances to keep learning, even if it's just a new recipe or a joyful little dance in front of the mirror. There will still be days when Elena forgets the name of an old neighbor or fumbles with the kettle. But when she lights up telling an old memory, the first time she baked apple pie with her grandmother, everyone knows that behind that fog, there's still a warm and loving Elena. The changes in our memory can be frightening, but they're not the end of the story. They're a reminder to slow down, to listen, and to care for ourselves, even if we're not as perfect as we once were. Because more than anything, memories aren't just what we keep in our heads. They're what we share, the bonds we build every single day. Third cause, falls, a danger often underestimated. At 75, many people still think that falling is just an unfortunate accident, one misstep, a moment of lost focus. But after a fall, everything can change. Not just for a day, but for the rest of your life. Because a fall isn't just a single accident. It can lead to losing mobility, losing confidence, and even losing part of the meaning that once made life precious. John, 80 years old, still took care of himself in the wooden house he built with his late wife. He was always proud that he could still make his own breakfast and tend the small vegetable garden by his porch. Even in his 80s, he believed he was still strong, that everything would be fine. Until one winter afternoon, when he carried a small potted plant out to the balcony to catch a bit of sun, he tripped over the edge of a small rug by the door. Just one misplaced step, and he stumbled and fell. The fall itself took only an instant, but at his age, one fall was enough to change everything. He was taken to the hospital and diagnosed with a hip fracture. At first, John stayed optimistic. "I'll get better quickly. In a few days, I'll be walking again like before." But at 80, the body doesn't heal like it once did. Each day in that hospital bed, he felt his legs growing weaker. His breath became shallower. Every morning when he woke up, he had to strain just to sit up. And in his eyes, the belief that "I'm still strong" started to fade. The truth is, falling isn't rare. It's the leading cause of serious injuries in older people. As the years add up, bones aren't as strong as they used to be, and muscles lose their power. Even those who are still healthy, who still take morning walks, who still love to garden like John, they're not exempt from this rule. A moment of imbalance can come in an instant, but the consequences can last forever. John later realized, "I should have paid more attention. I should have fixed that rug edge a long time ago. I should have made the light a little brighter." These things, just a folded corner of a rug, a dim light bulb, a pair of slippers that no longer felt steady, turned out to be silent traps. He came to understand that preparing for safe aging isn't a sign of weakness, but of wisdom. Because preventing a fall means preserving freedom, preserving those cool morning walks and warm afternoons spent with memories of the past. Many people think falling only happens to those who are already frail, already using a cane or a wheelchair. But falling doesn't discriminate. It can come from one sleepless night, one rushed step, or one moment of forgetting that the body isn't what it once was. And the most important thing to remember is, it can be prevented before it steals away what matters most. We don't need to turn our homes into fortresses. Just simple steps, clearing walkways, securing rug corners, adding grab bars in the bathroom, choosing shoes with better grip, taking a few minutes every morning to practice standing steady, even if it's just holding onto a chair for balance. These things, small as they are, become the shield that protects us from having to trade away our independence and dignity. John finally returned home. He no longer walked as quickly as before, but every step he took was steadier, more careful. He understood that every time he rose from his chair, every time he climbed a stair, it wasn't just about his legs. It was about the determination to hold onto freedom and the self-respect that come with age. Maybe we can't avoid every risk, but we can prepare, we can be just a little more careful, we can listen to our bodies. The fourth cause, chronic inflammation, the smoldering flame. Inside every person, there's always a quiet battle. A tiny army of cells and antibodies works day and night to protect us from germs and bacteria. But by the time we reach 75, that army isn't as young as it once was. The immune system grows weaker, yet ironically, another flame never goes out: chronic inflammation. Joseph, 79, was used to greeting the sunrise with a warm cup of coffee. He loved the crisp air of the early morning, loved the smell of damp earth in the small garden he had tended for years. People still praised him for his quickness and cheerful spirit, but last winter, a minor cold landed him in the hospital. Joseph never imagined that a cough could mean he'd never leave that place again. The immune system of an older adult isn't as strong as it was in youth. But what's even more dangerous is chronic inflammation, like a small flame quietly weaving through the body, slowly burning from the inside. It doesn't cause immediate pain, no alarms go off. But day by day it chips away, weakening the heart, disturbing blood sugar, slowing recovery after illness. When people hear inflammation, they often think of swollen joints or a dull ache. But chronic inflammation isn't just about joint swelling. It sneaks into everything: blood vessels, the liver, the brain, like a tiny, invisible fire. And when another illness comes along, like the flu or pneumonia, the body is already so tired it can't defend itself anymore. Joseph had only caught a cold, something he used to shake off easily, but this time, his body was too weary to fight back. What fuels the fight against chronic inflammation isn't expensive miracle drugs. It's the simple meals: a plate of grilled salmon, a colorful salad bowl. It's a warm glass of water each morning instead of sugary sodas. It's a good night's sleep when the body quietly repairs itself. And it's a little peace of mind, easing the worries and burdens we so often pile on our own shoulders. Not everyone sees chronic inflammation as a threat. It doesn't knock you down right away like a fall. It doesn't steal your memory overnight like cognitive decline. But that's exactly why it's dangerous, because it slowly wears you out from the inside with no clear warning. Joseph used to think it must be just old age, when he felt weaker, when his appetite wasn't the same. But those small signs, loss of appetite, fatigue, wounds that wouldn't heal, were his body speaking up, saying, "I'm tired. I need to be cared for." Over an afternoon cup of tea, Joseph once told an old friend, "If only I'd known sooner a meal full of greens, a long enough sleep, they might matter more than any pill." His friend said nothing, then slowly nodded. Because at this age, we finally understand that health is no longer about tomorrow. It's about every breath we take, every meal we share, every time we laugh with someone we love. Fighting chronic inflammation isn't about changing everything overnight. It's about patience, about small steps. Cutting back on one sugary cookie, adding a spoonful of chia seeds instead. Taking a few minutes at the end of the day to breathe deeply and quiet the mind. Reminding yourself to go to bed a little earlier, because sleep is the best gift to a weary body. Maybe Joseph doesn't move as fast as he used to, but each time he opens the window to let in the morning breeze, he still feels it. This body, though old, still craves to be loved, still deserves to be cared for. The flame of chronic inflammation might burn low and slow, but patience and those small daily choices, they can soothe it. They can give you more afternoons with a warm cup of tea, more stories to tell, and more memories to keep whole. When we look back at these four causes, heart disease, cognitive decline, falls, and chronic inflammation, we see they're not just four separate illnesses. They're intertwined, quietly feeding into each other, like invisible threads weaving the story of aging health. Each person, each family, can see a bit of themselves in this story. A shortness of breath climbing the stairs, a morning when you forget the name of your favorite dish, or an afternoon when you feel weak for no clear reason. But in all these changes, there's still one thing that never changes: the desire to live each day to the fullest. Old age may bring limits, but it doesn't take everything. It doesn't take away clear morning skies, the sweet taste of a warm cup of tea, or the comfort of a loved one's hand. Taking care of yourself at this age isn't a duty anymore. It's a gift you give to yourself and to the people you love. It's a quiet message that says, "I'm still here, still cherishing these simple moments." It's the courage to ask, what can I do today to help my body feel lighter, to help my soul feel calmer? Maybe the answer is just a meal with fresh greens, standing up and sitting down once to keep your legs strong, or sharing a smile instead of a complaint. No step is too small, no effort is wasted. Because in the end, health isn't just a number or a test result. It's the ticket that lets us keep loving, keep feeling useful, keep being part of beautiful stories. If today these words resonate with you, think about the smallest thing you could start right now. a healthier meal, a slow walk around the garden, or a phone call to check on someone you love. Don't underestimate those small changes. They'll add up to strength and lasting joy. And if you want to share your own story or someone else's, don't hesitate to leave a message below. We all have experiences worth treasuring, and your story might just be the spark of hope someone else is searching for. Hit subscribe if you feel like this space has something that speaks to you. It's the simplest way for us to keep going together, to keep sharing knowledge, compassion, and those gentle reminders that, no matter how old we are, we still have many beautiful mornings to greet, many stories to tell, and many moments to love.